Texas was the blue ribbon event in the IRL calendar, the Indianapolis 500, enlivened this year by the presence of current Champ Car champion Juan Pablo Montoya.
The 84th Indianapolis 500 is underway. Oh, and Greg Ray has a broken suspension. Whoa, three wide down the first turn. Darring gets both Salazar and Cheever. And a problem here on the main straightaway. A car smoking. It appears as if it's Darring. And here's the wheel-to-wheel battle down the main straightaway as Eliseo Salazar passes Robbie Gordon.
You're gonna miss me when I'm not there. You know I don't care. You know I don't care.
Gets up the great run off the corner, and he's going to dispose of Vassar down the front stretch. And a car in trouble. That is Sam Hornish.
If I ever hear the names you call, and if I stumble, catch me when I fall.
White flag, one to go.
One more lap to go for Juan Montoya.
You're the winner of the Indianapolis 500, pal. You are the winner. You are the leader.
A young man definitely going places. Montoya claiming the first win for a rookie at Indianapolis since our own Graham Hill in 1966. We had a lot to cheer, I should say, in 66. Russell, much speculation that Montoya is moving to Williams next year. In fact, really, it's not speculation anymore, is it?
Well, no, but he was on the David Letterman show in the States last week and was very careful to say that he's got another year of his contract with Ganassi to go. But I've got a feeling that the deal is done and dusted. And what I suspect might happen is Williams test driver Bruno Junqueira, who's leading the Formula 3000 Championship in Europe, he'll actually take Montoya's place in kart.
Well, I read somewhere, I can't remember, I think it might have even been Autosport, that it's cheaper to buy a man with 1 year left in his contract, otherwise that Frank would have had Montoya maybe even last year.
That sounds entirely plausible.
Now then, Montoya, victory for the Ganassi Champ Car team, obviously, Paul, and it has been said that Champ Car have kept that date clear for the Indy 500 next year. So would you expect to see more IndyCar boys in there?
I think we will. I think they've witnessed, you can see how happy the team were. Teams always love to win, we know that, but you could see the sense of enthusiasm and euphoria, really. So I think we'll see a lot more teams entering the Indy 500 next year. There's a big purse on offer as well. That always goes down well with team owners in particular, as might be the case. So yeah, I think we will. And the date opening is a significant factor, I think.
And of course, some disappointment, I think, this year that there weren't more Champ Car teams, gentlemen, in the Indy 500, because it is a big draw, isn't it? It's still the biggest one.
Absolutely. It's the biggest race in America. It's one of the biggest races in the year. And those kart teams, I think, need to be there because it is the jewel in the crown.
Well, indeed. Well, we'll see what happens next year, of course. No Montoya or any other Champ Car driver here this weekend, so it'll be a straight fight between the IRL regulars. Let's take a look at the points going into this race. Buddy Lazier now has a clear lead over Scott Goodyear. Scott Goodyear 5th in Texas, the 9th man in Texas. Eddie Cheever 3rd in the series at the moment. Robbie Buell there in 4th place. Eliseo Salazar 5th. Mark Dismore 6th. Scott Sharp, the winner in Texas, is 7th at the moment. Al Unser Jr. is there in 8th place. Robbie McGee 2nd last time out. Billy Boat, the qualifying lap record holder, here today in 10th place overall. Well, as we mentioned at the top of the show, Pikes Peak is best known for its amazing hill climb, but this track is one of the many tracks which have been built in the US over the last few years. And here's some track facts regarding them. keep an eye on the banking and the like. That you can read for yourself. The race record is Greg Ray, and he's today's pole man. Well, let's take a look then at the grid. There he is on pole. The man himself is Greg Ray. We'll let the Americans take us through the grid now.
The fifth row, Jeff Ward and Eddie Cheever Jr. Row number 6, Scott Goodyear and Robbie McGee. In the seventh row, 2 Colorado drivers, Buddy Lazier from Vail and Buzz Calkins from Denver. The slopes of the Rocky Mountains give Buzz a perfect one of his hobbies, snow skiing. Row number 8, Donnie Beechler and Ayrton Dare. In the ninth row, Shigeaki Hattori and Al Unser Jr. The 10th row, Sam Hornish Jr. and Tice Carlson. Billy Bode and Sarah Fisher are in row number 11. The 12th row, Jimmy Kite and Jacques Lazier. And back in the last row, Canada's Doug Dodaro and Robbie Unser. Unser, that name is synonymous with nearby Pikes Peak, and Robbie first won the climb to the summit in 1987. He won the overall title in 1992. This is the third race of the year on a 1-mile track, but Jack, it requires different strategy.
Indeed it does, Bob. You know, Tom Sneva talked about traffic out on the racetrack. We're going to talk about traffic here on pit road. All the teams I talked to said they can do this race in 2 stops. So that means you can never lose sight of the leader. You pit when the leader pits. But Vince Welch, if a caution comes out at the wrong time, do you follow the leader into the pit then?
With this race and 3 races to follow, today's event becomes the first turn in the final lap to the championship. Points leader Buddy Lazier is a 50-point. You get 50 points for winning this race today. 7 drivers are within 50 points of the series leader Buddy Lazier. If Lazier should win this race today, he could take a commanding lead. If he falls back in the pack could swallow him up.
Well, in the first 5 races of 2000, we have had 5 different winners. It all began in Orlando, where Robbie Buell took the lead with less than 2 laps to go and put his 1-month-old team in victory lane. Race fans are still talking about Buddy Lazier's last to first drive on the Desert Mile in Phoenix. Skill and Las Vegas luck gave Al Unser Jr. his first win in the Indy Racing Northern Light Series. At Indianapolis, a dominating performance allowed Juan Montoya to take the traditional sip of milk. And just last week, the incredible battle to the finish line was won by Scott Sharp over Robbie McGee. Will we have a 6th different winner today? Well, Greg Ray, who is the defending series champ and the winner in both visits here last year, hope so. They will be conducting this race at an altitude more than 5,300 feet. We have onboard cameras that will be complementing our coverage here today. Scott Goodyear is in the Pennzoil Panther Dallara. He'll be starting 11th in that camera mounted on the side pod. Up in row number 2, Scott Sharp on the outside in the Delphi Automotive Systems Dallara. Just ahead of Scott Goodyear is Jeff Ward in the Harris A.J. Foyt G-Force. Mark Dismore is in the OnStar GM Bipower Dallara. He'll start in the 3rd position. And Buddy Lazier in the Delta Faucets Coors Light Dallara. He'll start in 13th position. Less than a lap to go to green, Tom.
Well, track conditions a lot warmer today than when they qualified in practice, Bob. So there's going to be some educated guessings going on as far as the car setup, what's necessary for the conditions that exist. We're going to see in a couple laps who's hit the spot and who's going to need that first pit stop to make adjustments.
Well, it was 80 degrees in the middle of last week, or close to 90 here in the Colorado Springs area. Then it fell down into the 50s and 60s, and today we have bright sunshine with the temperature once again approaching the 80-degree mark. A beautiful day, good crowd on hand, and we are set to go racing 200 miles at Pikes Peak International Raceway. The field aligned nicely as they come off of the 4th corner and get the green, and we're underway. And Robbie Buell and Greg Ray race wheel to wheel into the 2nd corner, and look at Scott Sharp making the move from the 2nd row up into 2nd position as Greg Ray, the pole sitter, drops back to 3rd, and it looks like that Robbie Buell is going to come around and lead the very first lap here, and it's the first time that Buell has ever led the opening lap in an IRL race. And Lazier slows down to a near stop in corner number 4 and pulls into the pit area. So Lazier, the driver from Vail, Colorado, is an early casualty, it would appear, as Scott Sharp tries to wrestle that lead away from Robbie Buell here on the 2nd lap.
Well, Scott Sharp, the last practice session, he radioed to his crew yesterday afternoon, says, boys, we got a rocket ship here, so it feels like the rocket's lit.
He, of course, started from the outside of the front row last week, but he really didn't earn that starting position as they were lined up by points, but he did earn this starting position outside of row number 1. There is Scott Sharp, and he's just a couple of car lengths behind Buell. Sharp, the winningest driver in series history as a result of last week's incredible run at Texas. He broke the tie that existed between himself, Ari Leyendijk, and Kenny Brack. Greg Ray staying right up there in 3rd position. Mark Dismore's running 4th, Jared Schrader 5th, then Salazar, Cheever, Ward, Hamilton, and Calkins.
Bob, it seems as if the motor has broken on Buddy Lazier's car. That's the report he's given the crew.
He sits helplessly down in his pit stall as the race continues under green, and Buddy Lazier, the points leader going into this event, could indeed suffer a major setback in his quest for the championship here today. Down to Vince Welch.
Ron Hemmelgarn, team owner for Buddy Lazier. Is it a motor?
I think we blew an engine. We're checking it right now, but he said he went down the backstretch and just let go. So we had a good run there. We passed a lot of cars on the start, so I think we could have had a good race, but unfortunately we blew an engine.
Back upstairs.
Well, Vince, as you said, if Lazier has a problem, he's going to get ate up by the pack in this point championship, and that's exactly what's going to happen.
Following Mark Dismore here, pursued by Jared Schrader. They're running about 2.8 seconds, and we have a crash out in turn number 2, and Billy Boat is involved along with Sarah Fisher. Fisher's car is up against the wall in turn 2. Boat's car, as you can see, has come to a stop down on the inside of the racetrack, exiting turn number 2. But there is Sarah Fisher, who obviously is frustrated and very disappointed that her day has come to an early end. There is damage, considerable damage to the back end of that race car.
Well, it appears as though she's all right. She's just real frustrated, so we'll have to watch and see what happened in the replay, if it was whose fault or what happened in that situation.
And there is Bo to the left of your screen. They're running the 99 chassis for Team Pelfrey this week. Some help from Curb Records. You can see there on the back of the engine cover. Let's take a look at the replay and see what happened. Well,
I don't know if Sarah got any help, but she lost the rear end. It spun around, and actually Billy was spinning too. He was just in front of her.
They were neither one really that close to each other, but Bo spun on the low side of the racetrack in turn number 2. So it brings out our first caution of the day. I don't think that Billy hit anything, but Sarah did.
Well, sometimes early in the race we have fluids out of these cars. They might be overfilled on fuel or whatever, and that could have been a problem for these two.
Well, they're assisting Sarah out of the car, but it appears as if she will climb out under her own power, so that is good news. Let's go down to Jackaroot. Sports brings you great golf action. Hal Sutton, Nick Price, and other top PGA Tour golfers hit the green for the FedEx St. Jude Classic. That's Saturday live at 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific, here on ABC. Well, they're going to throw the green flag next time by. It's Buell, Sharp, Ray, Dismore, and Schrader, the top 5. Then Salazar, Hamilton, Cheever, Ward, and Calkins. Now, Buzz has moved from 14th to 10th in the first 15 laps of the race, and Ayrton Dare is up to 11th position. He started 16th. Pace car is off the racetrack, and the pace quickens now. Scott Sharp is staying right there with Robbie Buell as they come down and get the green flag, and we're back to racing once again.
Well, you can see Sharp got a little bit of a run, but not enough to get by, and they both got away from Greg Ray a little bit running in 3rd. They both were able to get a couple car lengths on that restart.
The action down the backstretch.
Well, that was Eddie Cheever in the gray and black car that you saw dive underneath entering 3.
And the battle continues between Jared Schrader and Mark Dismore. That's for 4th position, and look at Cheever in the other Infinity-powered car.
Eddie doesn't sometimes qualify as well as he'd like, but he's always going forward when the green flag falls, Bob.
So that moves Cheever up to 5th position now as he was able to get by Jared Schrader. Cheever in the excited home Indy race car. On board with Mark Dismore now looking back to Cheever and Schrader. And not too far back there is Eliseo Salazar and Jeff Ward.
You know, Bob, what happens is it takes these guys a couple laps to really feel the car out. Again, the weather's quite a bit hotter than when they practiced and qualified, so they feel the car out for a couple laps and then make the adjustments they can inside the car. They've got sway bar adjustments, and they can move the weight from the left to the right side of the car. And again, that's all to balance the handling characteristics. Once they get that done, made those adjustments, and they can go to the front.
Back up front, it continues to be Buell leading Scott Sharp, but by just a couple of car lengths. Last time, the fastest car on the racetrack was Scott Sharp, just a little bit quicker than Robbie Buell. Buell ran a 165.5, whereas Sharp ran a 165.6. There you see the interval between first and second, just about 0.3 of a second. Come down and complete lap number 22. We'll do an at the line and show you who indeed is the quickest on that particular lap. Looks like Scott Sharp, followed by Buell and Greg Ray. The top three were the fastest three, but not in any particular order.
These two are stuck right together. I think Scott might be just a little bit quicker, but as he sucks up behind Buell, he gets in some of that what we call dirty air, or some of the turbulent air, and it'll take away some of the downforce in the car and make it hard for him to complete that pass.
And here is Eddie Cheever once again moving in on Mark Dismore for the 4th position. So far, a good day for the Infinity engines. They're running in first and in 5th, and Frank Hanselwitz from the Infinity program indicated that right now their major concern is not necessarily with reliability, because the engines have been very reliable this year, but rather with fuel mileage, and that is always an important factor in an Indy Racing Northern Lights Series event.
Well, no question about it, but the Infinity's been a little bit behind. They've had to work on both horsepower and reliability. Now that they've got those two things, they've gone to work on the fuel mileage end of the motor, and they're a little bit behind still in that area.
Once again, Cheever closes in on Dismore as they move through the 3rd and 4th corners of the racetrack. The banking here is at 13 degrees in the corners, 7 degrees here in the tri-oval area, and 3 degrees down the backstretch.
Well, you can see Eddie, he's looking for a place to get around, but when he gets up tight, again, he gets in the dirty air, and it hurts him a little.
Well, Jack Arute is with Sarah Fisher, who's out of the race.
And she has been released from the hospital. Sarah, do you know what happened out there?
I haven't seen the tape yet, so I'm not really sure, but I do know that I touched with another car, and things don't go good here when you touch. But, you know, I want to thank my guys. We had a really awesome week going, and they work really hard. They do a great job, and I feel extremely bad for them.
Some early conversation about the slickness of the racetrack. What did you think?
Well, you know, I was a lot looser than I was this week. I was starting to work with my weight jacker, trying to tighten it up a bit, and, you know, I was very loose, so. But that had nothing to do with the crash. I mean, the guys did a great job on the car. They really worked hard, and I thought we had a great race car, so that had nothing to do with the crash.
Bob?
Well, a good battle going on between Dismore and Cheever, but it's even better up front as the leaders approach now the slower traffic, putting a lap on Shigeaki Hattori. There is Buell already clearing him, and now Scott Sharp going around. Now that's Robbie Unser next that they will put a lap on. Unser running back in the 22nd position.
Well, again, this traffic really will dictate what happens with your lead. If you gain on somebody or you lose some spots. And sometimes you can't help when you catch the traffic. You're just sort of at bay, and you get there at the wrong time, and it can hurt you.
We see how close Greg Ray is to the second place car of Scott Sharp, with whom we ride. There is the interval on the racetrack. Greg Ray started from pole position but failed to lead the first lap. In fact, Robbie Buell has led all 30 so far. More action in the Indy Racing Northern Lights Series from Pikes Peak International Raceway in a moment.
Into today's Radisson Indy 200, and we can cross now to our commentary team at trackside.
secured to him, and he just can't use the pedal.
Robbie Buell has led all the way. Sarah Fisher and Buddy Lazier are out of the contest. Lazier with a blown motor and Sarah Fisher crashed, but she is okay. We have talked with her. There's the interval between first and second. Buell on your left and Scott Sharp on the right as they once again approach some slower traffic now. Sam Hornish did make a pit stop just a few moments ago. Now that's Doug Dodaro that's going a lap down.
Tom Stevie, you're talking about cars going loose. One car that has not gone loose is the Purex number 24. I just checked with Mitch Davis, and he said, we are dead solid perfect.
Well, that's usually what happens. The solid perfect guys are towards the front. Everybody else is hanging on. They've either run out of adjustment. They either run out of adjustment with their sway bars and their adjustments in the cockpit. Now they got to wait for that pit stop. And actually, some of these guys are coming in early. That's how bad the handling is for them.
This is Eliseo Salazar, closely pursued by Jared Schrader. Ayrton Dare is right there in the middle of things, and so is Donnie Beechler. In fact, Beechler is passing Dare and picking up the 7th position. Beechler is in the black car for Cahill Racing, and Donnie Beechler, the dirt track veteran from Springfield, Ohio, is moving up nicely here to the 7th spot.
And you know, Donnie Beechler had a little added advantage today, Bob. He competed in a USAC midget race for 25 laps. He finished last, but he said, hey, every lap I get at Pikes Peak helps the learning curve.
Actually, I talked to Cahill, his owner, in the garage area right before the midget car race, and he was very concerned about Donnie running that midget race. He actually started last to try to stay out of trouble, and Cahill told him to stay out of trouble, and I said, yeah, but you know how coachable these drivers are.
It was a real clean race, won by Ryan Newman, by the way. And there you see the drivers that are moving up. Donnie Beechler has picked up 8 spots, Dare 8. Unser Jr., Carlson, and Jacques Lazier have each moved up 7 positions since the drop of the green flag.
Bob Jenkins, one driver who's not moving up. He's going the opposite direction is Mark Dismore. He started 3rd. He's currently 15th. Has a terrible push, and they're trying to work it out. But this is one they're going to have to hold on to until they can get to the pit stop. His teammate Scott Sharp just a little bit loose, but they say so far the car's still handling well.
And Donnie Beechler picks up another position as he passes Eliseo Salazar, and Beechler goes to 5th. One of these unsponsored teams, and you really can't understand that because Donnie always gets a lot of airtime because he's running at the front of the field practically all of the time. Donnie Beechler now up to 5th position. There you see the interval among the top 3. Buell is the leader. More after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
Peak International Raceway, and Donnie Beechler's the man on the move in 4th place. He's 10 seconds down on the leader and closing. Let's rejoin our trackside commentators.
Rio's AJ Foyt G-Force.
We hear in the radio a lot of guys are looking to take front wing out of the car when they make the pit stops, again meaning the car's a little bit loose. The back end's more happy than they want it to be.
Well, we have not had that first round of pit stops yet. A lot of traffic here on the backstretch, and that bunches up this group that's racing together. Salazar and Dare and Hamilton and Hawkins and Schrader.
Well, the red car on the outside is Robbie Unser struggling with the Riley Scott chassis, Bob.
And also in this group is Al Unser Jr., who's in 11th position. Mark Dismore is 12th, and he's the last car on the lead lap and is within a second of going a lap down with an ill-handling race car. Jack, Robbie Buell has a 6-second lead.
Yeah, and the one thing that everybody's crossing their fingers is the Infinity Power. This is Ed Pink right here, who is monitoring all the functions of the Infinity Power Plant. Now remember, Infinity has not won a race, although Robbie Buell did. That was with the Aurora.
Ed Pink, a veteran engine builder. We talked about the midget race that was run here earlier. He not only builds the Infinity engines, but he builds a lot of midget engines also.
Well, that name started in drag racing. He was the king of drag racing motors for a long time, but Eddie built some great motors. Actually built a couple of race motors that I built.
He's been around a while then, huh?
He still looks the same.
Salazar, Dare, Hamilton, and Hawkins continuing to run very close on the racetrack. And Robbie Buell is slow here in the tri-oval. Buell with smoke belching from the back end of that race car. And after leading the first 60 laps of the race, it appears to be all over for Robbie Buell.
Well, you can see the smoke or oil coming out of the back of the car. Not a good sign. It's probably got some bad breath too, and that's not a good sign for those motors.
And Ed Fink, the engine builder, can only right now imagine what has happened to Robbie Buell.
Let's see if, based on the telemetry, Ed can tell us. What do you think happened, Ed?
We don't know yet. It's just all of a sudden smoke came out the back, and everything looked good, and all of a sudden something happened, so I'm not really sure.
I think maybe the most telling point is right here. There's a red line that went from here all the way to the bottom in about 2.2 seconds.
And so now the Infinity effort is left up to Eddie Cheever Jr., who is running in 4th position at the moment. We are under caution for the 2nd time here at Pikes Peak.
Results up until that point, and in fact, as we're just watching now.
Well, look, he's got a new nose. New nose for Greg Ray there. That is Greg Ray, your man you're talking about.
Absolutely.
He's getting a new nose. I think you should have one too. But
well, well, there is that. But he's certainly looking very strong here. He ignited his season this year. So far, he's had a 17th, a 19th, a 9th, and of course, he was back in 33rd in Indy. And this race last year, after he won it, he went on to win 2 of the next 3 events on the route to the championship. So Greg Ray from pole, if he can win this race, the championship isn't over for him. Although I have to say, personally, I think it's pretty unlikely. But he will.
Having said that, Buddy Lazier going out today is getting a little bit of a firing chance.
That definitely does help him. And he will be absolutely brimming with confidence, particularly having seen Lazier go out.
We've got a situation there where he's changed his nose, Russell. Can that be for aerodynamics? What have we got here, or maybe a bit of damage?
It's more likely to be damage, I think. But we
had incidents in the pit lane, I think.
Yeah, we haven't seen.
Ooh, right there.
Major damage to the nose piece on Ray's car, and it got Davey Hamilton all out of shape.
And he came in the next lap, and
you can see the right front wing is damaged severely.
The team was able to change the front nose of the car without Greg going down a lap, but it certainly did hurt him in terms of track position. He's fallen all the way back to 11th spot now, as we are still under caution, but the pace car is off the racetrack now. One of the drivers who was helped tremendously was Mark Dismore, who was about to go a lap down before that caution. Jack?
Bob, let's show you exactly this wing right here as we go back to green.
Get his lap back. The leader of the race is Scott Sharp. 2nd position belongs to Beechler, then Cheever. Allenser Jr. is 4th, and Eliseo Salazar is in 5th position. On board with Jeff Ward, who has lost 3 laps. He's back in 18th position. Vince?
First it was Buddy Lazier, the #1 man in the points, blowing a motor, and then Robbie Buell, 4th in points. Any indication, Robbie, before it let go?
No indication. That's just part of it. The Infinity motor, everything been going great. Just part of the learning curve. I just feel bad for the Purex guys because we don't get a car that often like we just had. And it hurts for the points in the whole Northern Lights series, but part of it.
Robbie Buell done for the day.
Yes, indeed. He is someone else who will suffer point-wise as a result of this race. Well, there is Allenser Jr., who again is up to the 4th position, running about 4 seconds behind the leader of the race. There is Donnie Beechler, and he is catching Donnie, who is in 3rd. Eddie Cheever has taken 2nd position away from Beechler.
Well, there's some good racing going on back through here. I mean, they're just dicing for positions all over the racetrack, Bob.
You know, Scott Sharp is literally walking away from this field, guys, and he radioed to Tom Kelly, and TK, his car owner, said, look, Scott, take it 1 lap at a time. Let's not abuse things. Let's save some for the end.
And as I said, Mark Dismore really benefited because of that caution. He had a terribly handling race car, was almost to go a lap down, but the caution came out just right, and as a result, he's back up to 5th position, and it appears the car is handling much better than it did.
Well, he hasn't had much luck throughout the season, so he was due some good luck, Bob, and that was certainly a piece of good luck for him.
Indeed. Dismore, his best finish was 2nd at Las Vegas, and he finished 6th last week at Texas, but he's also had finishes of 16th at Orlando and in Phoenix. Let's check the speeds here. Right now, Scott Sharp, the fastest on that lap, with Cheever second, and the third fastest that lap was Al Unser Jr. And Scott Sharp is quicker by more than 2 miles an hour.
But you know what, Bob, that they're trying to do with Scott Sharp, as we talked and Tom Sneva told you about race traffic, they are trying to time the race traffic. Being a little proactive, they don't want to pass race traffic in the corners if at all possible. So those lap times will fluctuate quite a bit.
Here is Beechler moving through slower traffic. That is Jacques Lazier that he put a lap on, and the third car there would be Al Unser Jr. We're on board with Jeff Ward, and I'm not sure we know what happened to him, but he's 3 laps down, Tom, back in 18th spot.
Well, he had to be pitted under the green, Bob, and that hurt him real bad. Everybody else had the advantage of pitting under the yellow. The car was off enough that they thought they needed to come in, and then the yellow comes out. It really hurts you.
Now Al Unser Jr. has also passed Jacques Lazier, so he has his sights on the third place car of Donnie Beechler just ahead. There they are, third and fourth. Al Unser Jr., of course, has never raced at Pikes Peak International Raceway. His first visit to this 1 mile facility.
Well, they did come and test, Bob, and I talked to Al, and he was real happy with what they learned in the test condition.
There's the second place car of Eddie Cheever. Now there is Beechler in third and Unser in fourth position. So
look at the traffic. You look at the traffic. Donnie Beechler got caught out on traffic, and little Al, in a blink of a second, was by him.
On board with our side pod, Ken, on the Pennzoil Panther. We'll call this the Pennzoil Cam, as Scott Goodyear was unsuccessful in his effort to get his lap back, so he's still back in 13th spot, 1 lap down.
Well, they've obviously missed the setup because...
Stay high.
Well, we got trouble.
Oh, we got a spinner, and it's Greg Ray.
Whoa. Wow, look at the avoidance maneuver by those guys.
Wow.
Great job in missing him. But it's not Greg Ray, I don't
it's
believe.
Hattori.
Boy, he's very fortunate.
Shigeaki Hattori, who had a good run in his debut last week at Texas Motor Speedway. Hattori speaks no English, and so his spotter communicates with him, needless to say, in Japanese also. Well, another caution comes out here at Pikes Peak for the third time this race. Hattori spinning on the backstretch. Scott Sharp continues his lead over Eddie Cheever Jr., Al Unser Jr., Donnie Beechler, and Eliseo Salazar. It's Shigeaki Hattori off corner 2.
Right in front of Al Unser and Goodyear, and they both did a good job of missing him. And now 2 or 3 other guys. Look at this. Lazier, Jacques, and on the inside is Jarrett. Wow.
Did some dirt track racing there, but did not make contact. Here we go. The green comes out, and we are back to competition. Sharp leads Cheever across the line, then Al Unser Jr., Beechler, Salazar, Dismore, and Dare. So Eddie Cheever Jr. now has the responsibility of getting the Infinity the win here this weekend. For a while, Robbie Buell appeared to have things in hand, but on the 62nd lap of the race, in the lead, he dropped out, giving Scott Sharp the advantage, but Cheever has moved up to within just a few car lengths of Sharp.
Well, and one of the things about the Infinities here at this altitude, Bob, is they feel they don't lose quite as much horsepower as the Aurora because of the fuel injection system. Most of the cars, the Auroras, have a butterfly system like we're used to. They have a barrel valve system on the fuel injection of the Infinities, and they feel like that maybe doesn't lose quite as much power.
Down to Jackaroot, who's with Tom Kelly.
And Tom Kelly is calling the shots down here for Scott Sharp. And understand the car may have just a little bit of push, but Scott likes it right now.
Jack, he's real happy with the car after that last pit stop. And this is a race of attrition. We just need to take it easy on the equipment and be there at the end.
All right, we understand you need to wish somebody a happy Father's Day.
Yeah, my dad's back in Fort Wayne. I'd like to wish him happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, Dad. We love you.
81 years old, guys, and he calls a lot of the shots here. 82, excuse me.
Yeah, but Jim only acts about 72. That guy's got a lot of life in it right there.
And Vince Welch has an update on Eddie Cheever Jr.
Well, the big difference for Cheever since that pit stop has been the tires. Eddie Cheever said the car was diabolical for that first stint, but what a difference this set of tires has made. And you see Cheever running strong in second place.
Cheever started this race in the 10th position, has moved up to second, and look how close he has come. He lost the lead with 2 laps to go at Orlando, and last week was right up there amongst them when he ran out of fuel, lost a lap, and finished in 9th position. So maybe it will be better for Eddie Cheever Jr. here this weekend at Pikes Peak.
Well, you can see Sharp is not getting away from Eddie, so they've definitely got the balance a lot better for Eddie after that stop.
There's how he has moved from his 10th starting position up to the runner-up spot. 0.8 of a second now behind Scott Sharp. Well, last year, America's Lance Armstrong inspired the nation with an amazing victory in the Tour de France. Now he returns with hopes of riding away as 2-time champion. Don't miss the Tour de France Saturday, July 1st at 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific on ABC. And get your Tour de France stage-by-stage analysis and highlights at abcsports.com, part of Go Network. Here is Mark Dismore and Greg Ray. They run 6th and 7th, and right there is also Ayrton Dare, who's 8th.
Yeah, those three have been battling each other in the racetrack pretty good. Again, they've sort of settled in on this fuel stint, so they're just biding their time and again trying to make those adjustments if they have in the cockpit. If not, they've got to wait till that next stop.
Are you surprised that Greg has not been more of a factor? He won the pole position by blowing away the track record and even blowing away the second fastest, but when the green flag dropped here today, he really hasn't been competitive.
Well, I know there's a bunch of rumbling going on in the garage area about what they do when they qualify. How can he be 3 or 4 miles an hour quicker than everybody qualifying? In fact, the IRL confiscated their rear wing to look at it to make sure it was legal. They didn't find anything. It was stock as they could find, and but it's got some of these guys scratching their head how they're doing it qualifying.
Tom, one of the things that Greg Ray is saying he's having trouble with is race traffic. He says the car just doesn't feel real good when he's boxed up in a lot of race traffic. But he feels he has a fast car. He's been conversing with Thomas Knapp about the changes that they would like to make in the next, in what should be their final pit stop.
He is closing in on Mark Dismore. We're on board with Mark. Looking back to Greg Ray and Ayrton Dare, who's not far behind.
Well, what happens, Jack, as you know, if they use a lot of downforce in the car for the race and they get in traffic, you can see him right there. He lost the front end.
And he's in the wall.
Again, a typical case. He got in there, lost the air, and lost the downforce in the front end, and it took him right to the wall.
So Greg Ray, who won both events that were held here at Pikes Peak International last year, propelling him to the season championship, has crashed here this afternoon just shy of the halfway point.
Greg Ray in the wall, and while they sort Greg Ray out under a yellow, we'll take a short break. Greg Ray is out of the Radisson 200. To pit lane, so possibly we have another lap to go. Yes, we do, so we're going to be out for at least one more lap, and we can rejoin our commentators at trackside now.
Top 10 in 6 races.
Yeah, we're just not doing well at all. You know, it seems like when we do have a little bit of good luck, 6 more times of bad luck comes by. So, you know, we'll just have to regroup and catch them next race. We got a long time till the next race, so we'll have time to rebuild things. So.
John Menard, car owner for Greg Ray.
This is the 3rd crash this year for Greg Ray and his 4th DNF in the 6 races this year.
Yeah, they've really been struggling. Again, you know, I'm sure Ray is probably bad-mouthing himself right now. Not right now, wait. Right now he's saying, why did I try that move? He's talking to himself. He's probably blinking one eye and then into the wall.
And that is the result right there. Very badly damaged Conseco car driven by Greg Ray. Crashed out here at Pikes Peak International Raceway. Well, we understand that we're going to get the green flag next time by. We have only 3 events remaining in the Indy Racing Northern Lights Series for the year 2000. Next will be at Atlanta Motor Speedway, which is very similar to the one we raced on last week in Texas and had such a great show. That'll be on Saturday night, July 15th on ESPN. will visit the new Kentucky Speedway on ESPN August the 27th and then return to Texas Motor Speedway October 15th here on ABC. Vince?
I'm with Jonathan Bird, one of the car owners for Robbie Unser's machine. Why was Robbie asked to leave?
Well, we were having a little bit of difficulty with the handling on this car that we're developing. The WorldBestBuy.com car just wasn't quite up to the sponsor today. So it got to the point that there was no way to stay out there with those conditions, so we didn't want to be in the way.
Bob Jenkins?
You do have to take your hat off, though, to Bird and McCormick, because they, as they say, are kind of getting this Riley and Scott chassis dialed in, and they're here every week, and they don't do very well as far as the standings are concerned, but you got to take your hat off to them.
Well, and Robbie's probably thankful they black flagged, because when the car's that far off, you're just on the ragged, you're going slow, and you're on the ragged edge of losing control every corner. So it probably saved him a lot of heartbeats by getting off that racetrack.
Still just a couple of car lengths separate the leader, Scott Sharp, from Eddie Cheever Jr. running in second spot. Al Unser Jr. is in third. Donnie Beechler runs in fourth, and Ayrton Dare is up to the fifth position. We have 10 cars on the lead lap. We have, of course, completed more than half distance. So if we do get that rain that we see over to the west, we're okay. However, the wind is blowing in the opposite direction, so hopefully it'll blow it away from the racetrack. We'll check the speeds once again at the line here, and once again it is Scott Sharp the fastest, but that time Ayrton Dare, back in fifth spot, is the third fastest, and he passed Dismore and Salazar on the restart to get up there.
Well, again, and Cheever, Sharp isn't able to run by. There's Beechler.
Nice pass by Donnie Beechler, who takes third from Al Unser Jr.
And it feels like the longer they go under green, the better Beechler does. A lot of the guys might be losing the handle and start slowing down, but Beechler goes farther forward.
Beechler is in the black car, just ahead of Al Unser Jr. here.
And that's Dare right behind little Al in the yellow and purple car.
New sponsorship on the side, poduproar.com for Ayrton Dare and Team Extreme this week. Beechler begins to pull away a bit from Al Unser Jr. Donnie Beechler's best finish here came in 1998 when he finished in 10th position. His best career finish came earlier this year at the Phoenix Mile. He came home third.
Well, we actually talked to him earlier, and this track has given him a bad time. They've struggled here. He's spun. He's crashed a couple times. He said he almost crashed in practice this Friday and was very lucky that he saved the car. So, but he's got it figured out for today.
Unser now begins to feel a bit of pressure from Ayrton Dare, the young rookie from Brazil. He's been very impressive in his 6 races in the Indy Racing Northern Lights Series, doing an incredible job at Las Vegas. In fact, leading the race when he dropped out with gearbox problems. And of course, Al Unser Jr. went on to win that race at Las Vegas.
Well, he ran good at Indianapolis. He was running towards the front when they had a problem there.
More than 30,000 have gathered here this afternoon at Pikes Peak International Raceway in what has been delightful weather so far. Seeing a good race. There again is Beechler and Al Unser Jr. running third and fourth. There's about a second and a half separation between those two. 113 laps are completed.
What's interesting here, these guys will maybe be trying a little bit different lines. And this is where spotters come in. They'll look at the leader and what line the leader is running, and his spotter can actually relay that to his driver and say, hey, you might want to move up. The leader, the guy that's running a little faster than you are, is maybe a little higher in turn 4 on the exit or a little lower. Spotter can communicate that to his driver and maybe help him.
The Unser family, of course, very famous for their runs up Pikes Peak, which is not too far from this oval here. And Jack Arute has a report on Eddie Cheever, who continues to run in second spot, about 2.5 seconds behind Scott Sharp.
And Bob, remember we told you there's 2 Infinities in the field. One is blown up. We showed you Ed Pink. Where is he now? Right here, monitoring Eddie Cheever's progress. It's kind of like, where's Waldo?
Well, Scott Sharp has been able to put some distance between himself and Cheever as they once again negotiate some of the slower traffic. That is once again a Tory. Well, was able to get back into the race after that spin.
Right, it's sort of good news, bad news for Torrey. He spun, didn't hit anything, but the bad news is you got to run the rest of the race in that same uniform, Bob.
Here is Mark Dismore, who is in 7th position, and he's putting a lap on Scott Goodyear. It's not been a good day for Scott. 13th position, 2 laps down, and Sam Hornish is not having a good day either. He's been in and out of the pit several times, and most recently, you understand, he may have had some contact with the wall, slight as it might be.
Well, you can see him wiggle the car to see if he can feel anything broke, but he's on his way in, and the guy's going to check it out with him.
He's another rookie in the Indy Racing Northern Lights Series, hailing from Defiance, Ohio. Has competed in Formula 2000 on this racetrack. There you see Scott Sharp putting another lap on Billy Boat.
Bob, remember at the top of the show I told you that the question marks about when you should pit, you have to follow the leader? Well, Eddie Cheever wants to pit on lap 141. Your leader, Scott Sharp, he is talking about pitting maybe around lap 125, that early. Could get real interesting down here on pit road in the next few laps.
Well, if so, that would only be about 4 laps from right now, because the 121st lap is in the books.
Well, we talked about the fuel mileage, and we felt the Infinity maybe wasn't getting as good a mileage as the Auroras, but if those numbers are correct, the Infinity obviously has made some big gains in the fuel mileage in.
Indianapolis 500 winner. Not 1 3/4 seconds behind Scott Sharp. On board here with Jeff Ward, who's back in 16th position, 3 laps down.
Well, you can hear him have to wait on the throttle in the corner. Let's see how it is at this end. He has to roll out of the throttle. Now, he wants to be back in the throttle, but he's got to wait, and then as he exits the corner, too far off the corner is when he has to get back in the throttle, and the driver just is really frustrated here when you have to wait that long before you can get back after the gas.
And Al Unser Jr. now gets...
And that's Daré, just right on Al's tail, and they're both going by Goodyear from his side cam.
Well, Jr. got boxed up a little bit behind Scott Goodyear, but now here is Daré trying to take the position from Al Unser Jr. and not being able to do so. This is the battle for 4th position.
Well, again, Daré catches him, but you get in that bad air. Now, obviously, Daré's car is a lot better than Greg Ray's was, because he's able to run pretty tight and not lose the front end nearly as bad as Greg Ray.
Vince Welch is with Greg Ray.
First, there was some small contact in the pit lane, and then turn 4 put you out. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, it's very disappointing for the Conseco team Menard. They've been doing a great job all weekend long, and we were just running strong up front, just biding our time, and we came in with that first pit stop, and we're at the back of the pits, and that's maybe not a good place to be. We're one of the first ones in, and a lot of cars were coming behind us, and we got caught up in a pit lane incident. We put on a new nose, got back in, and we were running 9th, and worked our way back up, I guess, to about 6th place, and I was a lot quicker than Mark Dismore, and kept on showing him my nose, and he'd take the air away. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's one of those things where I should exercise more patience. So I apologize to my team. They deserve better than that.
Safe to say there's going to be a new champion in this series this season.
Well, Sharp apparently is going to stay out there, so we're going to take a quick break here before the second set of pit stops, and we'll be right back.
Sharp, that looks to me. Cheever and Sharp coming very, very close together there. Well, we'll be able to keep an eye on these. These are live pictures as they come in, Paul. Now, Eddie Cheever Jr. is looking pretty cool. He's slid in behind Scott Sharp now. Scott Sharp has consistently put up the fastest laps of the race, 166 mile an hour, our last check.
And side by side they go.
Indeed. So here it is then. The change of the lead coming up, possibly.
Yep.
Well, what a race we're in for then. So then, Radisson, Indy.
Cheever, of course, Keith, lying third in the championship, and as I wonder if Sharp's got a problem because he's slow.
Well, I was going to say, Beechler's just gone through as well. Donnie Beechler's just taken Sharp, so Sharp has dropped down in 2. Well, these are live pictures. That was a replay you've just watched of the change for the lead, and we can rejoin our trackside commentators.
The faster Beechler gets. Either that or the other guys are backing up to him. Sharp, something happened with Sharp. His balance has gone away.
Tom, I can tell you exactly what happened to Scott Sharp. The car's gone big time loose. And they are now just going to try and hold on and decide and fix it when they come in for their final pit stop.
And we have moved to lap 137, so we are far away from the anticipated pit stop by Eddie Cheever Jr. He's just staying out there. There's the onboard with Jeff Ward, and that's Donnie Beechler that just went around him.
Well, we saw Donnie almost get caught in traffic, but he was able to turn the car down without getting the back end loose. So Beechler's car is working.
Eddie Cheever has led 4 of the 6 races in the year 2000 in the Indy Racing Northern Light Series.
How would you like to have this as your message, Tom Sneva? Scott Sharp radios in and says, it's so bad, I'm having a difficult time holding onto the steering wheel. Tom Kelly radios back and says, just hold on, just hold on.
Easy for him to say, huh?
It really is, but that's why the pedals are hinged, Bob. You know, you just got to roll out of the throttle and run a little slower, but that's real frustrating when the car's been so good for so long.
Sharp has dropped a second and a half back of Cheever. We have the battle on the racetrack up in the top left, and on the bottom right, well, we'll see how much of an effort it is for Scott Sharp.
Well, it's going to be hard to see the effort, but you'll see that he won't be able to turn the wheel very far. He doesn't want to turn it. The more he turns it, the more it wants to knock the rear end loose, so he's not turning that wheel very much, Bob. He's real gentle. You see him just sort of shuffle the wheel a little bit. He's out of the throttle, and he can't pick it up quite as quick as he'd like.
At the moment, he is in no danger of losing the 3rd position because there are about 7.5 seconds between Scott Sharp and Ayrton Dare, who's running in 4th position. Vince has an update on Donnie Beechler, who's looking good running 2nd.
Obviously, Beechler likes the mile tracks. He was 6th at Disney and 3rd at Phoenix, but right now he would like to have a yellow because this team needs to come in for fuel and tires. They had targeted lap 140, and obviously we're at lap 141, so that tells you what Beechler is in need of.
Beechler now trying to get around Tice Carlson. Carlson is running in 10th position. Couple of laps down, but not a bad run at all for Tice Carlson, who had the stomach flu on Friday and passed up the practice session. Eddie Cheever was the guy who shook it down, and we're seeing from the Pennzoil Panther cam, that's Donnie Beechler to the inside of Scott Goodyear once again.
Well, that was a tough situation because Tice was trying to get by Goodyear at the same time Beechler was trying to get by them both, and it really held up Beech for a little bit.
Fellas, Eddie Cheever Jr. will be bringing his Excite car down onto pit road for his final stop. They don't really anticipate making any major changes, and Eddie Cheever is headed onto pit road for service. You know the keys, guys. Hit your marks and then let your crew go to work. 6 men over the wall, and it's now their time to shine. They can either deliver it to Cheever or take it away.
Here's our new camera mounted right there at the pit wall as we watch the guys fuel the car, get the new tires on, getting every drop of fuel in the car, then pulling away, and away he goes in 12.6 seconds for Eddie Cheever Jr.
Well, and they had the tires changed a lot quicker than the fuel went in. He had to wait for fuel. They had to get it all in there.
So Cheever now will blend in with the traffic and get the excited home Indy race car up to speed.
Well, as we suspected, fuel mileage, the Infinity was the first one that had to stop under that green, Bob, indicating that they still don't have the mileage that some of the Auroras do at this point.
And here's an indication. Look for Scott Sharp, your current 2nd place man, to pit on lap 150. Meanwhile, Donnie Beechler's on pit road.
Well, Donnie Beechler did get the lead for 3 laps, but he relinquishes it now for his 2nd and hopefully final pit stop.
So you might want to go back with soft on your rear bar and probably soft on the front bar. You might have to raise the front back up a bit. Up and down on a jacker.
You heard him on the radios. You heard him on the radio. You might have to go softer in the front bar. That indicates they need to stick the front end more.
Well, it was a 14.7 second pit stop for Donnie Beechler, and he rolls back out of the racetrack as Al Unser Jr. comes in for a stop. And apparently they're anticipating some chassis adjustments on that car as Al Unser Jr. hits his pit stall. There's our overhead camera.
You heard him talk about reset the dash. They reset it so they know what kind of fuel they're using.
Making an adjustment on the left front wing. Meanwhile, back in the lead is Scott Sharp, despite the ill-handling race car, now with about a 4-second advantage.
Not for long, Bob Jenkins. He's now been called on the pit road. Finally, Scott Sharp will be able to breathe a sigh of relief. Watch for a chassis adjustment to solve that loose condition. The crew's waiting for Scott Sharp to come on the pit road.
Well, he's on his way, but again, this team's getting better fuel mileage, just like they did in Texas last week. It really caught him a yellow last week and really gave him a big advantage.
Ayrton Dare, who was running in second place for a while, is now out of the pits after he made his stop as Scott arrives in his pit box.
You heard Tom Kelly tell Scott Sharp to keep the revs up. They don't want to stall this thing. They drop it, put it into gear, it lurches forward.
Go, boys, let's go. Pull it out, pull it out, pull it out. Go, 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 go.
Now, I didn't see him change the front wing, so if they're changing the balance, they had to do it with tire stagger.
Indeed, then it turns out what they did, stagger and pressure, Bob.
15.4 second pit stop for Scott Sharp as Al Unser Jr. has taken his car to the lead.
And that could have been a longer stop if it were not for Tom Kelly. You heard him on the radio say, pull it out, boys, pull it out. They hadn't even taken on a full 35 gallons.
Schrader makes his pit stop. The lead now belongs to Mark Dismore with Stefan Gregoire running second. And as things cycle around, I believe that Schrader is going to be third. A long pit stop for Schrader. I believe they killed it and they had to insert the starter. But now Schrader goes back into the race. Here's Mark Dismore, now the leader of the event.
Well, getting quite a bit better mileage than his teammate Sharp. He's been out there 3 or 4 laps longer.
He has about a 6-second advantage on Gregoire.
He's coming in. You hear him get out of the throttle. And he's heading for the pits, Bob.
So Mark, who battled a ill-handling race car in the early stages of the event, apparently has things going much better for him as he relinquishes the lead now to come in for his final pit stop, and this will be on lap 156.
Now we'll have to watch and see how much fuel they take in for Scott Sharp. Didn't take a full load. Now all of a sudden will Dismore take a full load? Tires are done. They don't take a full load. They tap the fuel man on the shoulder and he pulls out.
And a good 10.7 second pit stop for Dismore. And here is Cheever on the racetrack up at full speed. Would like to put a lap on Dismore, but I don't think he's going to do it as Mark is getting up to speed. Nevertheless, Cheever is in second position right now to Gregoire. Dare, Dismore, and Beechler are the other cars on the lead lap as Al Unser Jr. is now a lap down.
And again, both of the Kelly cars did a time stop. They knew they didn't need a full fuel load to go the distance. There's only, what, 43 laps left,
Yeah,
Bob?
but Tom, the big problem was the time stop for Scott Sharp. It was like a last-minute call by Tom Kelly.
Well, I think it's just because they realized they didn't need a full load late. And with Dismore, they knew the strategy at that point, and they were able to be more on top of their game and a little shorter stop for Dismore.
Stefan Gregoire came into this race with perhaps as much optimism as he has ever had. His best finish of his career came here in 1997. He finished in second position. He started 7th today, the second best of his career. Right now, he has a 5.5 second lead on Eddie Cheever Jr. There's Donnie Beechler, who is in 5th spot right now. And scoring is showing us 5 cars on the lead lap with Al Unser Jr., Mark Dismore, Robbie McGee, Buzz Calkins, and Jarrett Schrader completing the top 10, but all those guys a lap down.
Well, you saw Beechler. He had a longer pit stop than the rest of those guys, and it really hurt him on the racetrack. He's back to 5th.
So Stefan Gregoire has the lead here, and he is the 6th leader of the afternoon. Scott Sharp has led the most. Scott currently runs 4th. We'll be right back.
3 laps to go of the Radisson Indy 200. Stefan Gregoire leads, but look, Eddie Cheever is right on his case. Ayrton Dare has blown up. And our man here in the studio says, never paint your car prunes and custard. That was Russell Bolgin, a quote. Back to our trackside commentators.
So that might be some of the difference.
There we go. Cheever now makes the pass down the backstretch. And you just get the feeling, Tom, that Cheever was a man on a mission. He was the first to go to the Infinity Power full time. And when he saw Robbie Buell drop out of the race early, he probably said to himself, okay, it's all up to me, and I'm going to do it.
Bob, the latest thing, though, he's saying, he radioed Owen Snyder. He says, doesn't that guy have to stop for fuel? And finally, Owen Snyder very calmly said, yeah, in about 20 laps.
Here's Al Unser Jr. and Mark Dismore battling for the 6th position. They are a lap down, however, but still a pretty good race on the track as Dismore goes to the inside and goes into 6th position.
Well, Dismore's been pretty fast, but he's been off sequence. He wasn't good early. Remember, he had trouble early, but they've got the car a lot better right now.
Mark Dismore from Greenfield, Indiana, is running a lap down to the leader, Eddie Cheever Jr., with about a 2-second advantage now on Stefan Gregoire. More of the Indy Racing Northern Light Series from Pikes Peak after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
Opportunity for that man, Cheever.
It is, and one of the significant things about Cheever is he's completed more laps than anybody else this year. He just needs a win to top it off.
Well, we've seen him come in for fuel already, so he's on tyres, he's on fuel. That should have been the last time he came in, of course, unless there's a yellow. But Cheever looking now to, well, barring a big problem, he's looking like a winner, isn't he?
And he could well go to the top of the championship.
Well, if you look to the back of your picture, you can see stormy clouds, and I'm sure that's rain, if I'm not mistaken, over on them there hills. And the Radisson Indy 200 has been very, very lucky not to have a downpour. We've heard the commentators talking about it at trackside, and I don't suppose it would matter too much to these guys now. Cheever is in front, he'll be quite happy about that.
They might just get away with it, that would be the key thing. But an interesting point about Eddie Cheever saying about Gregoire, you know, doesn't this guy have to stop for fuel? And that could be a factor in these remaining races, certainly in remaining laps, I should say, for the guys running in second through to 10th.
Also brings us back to that point that Russell Bolgin made earlier on here in the studio, of course. This will be the first win ever for an Infinity motor if Cheever manages to get it over the line.
And that's a really significant achievement when, for such a long time, he's been the only driver with an Infinity motor, which means that you don't get that database you build up when you've got 15 or 20 cars using the same engine. It's been a very, very long, hard slog for Infinity.
Could have been a bit sweet and sour for the Infinity directors themselves. I mean, we saw Robbie Buell go out earlier on with a blown motor. That was a bit of a disaster. One or two people might have expected that, I suppose. But here we have at the moment Cheever looking very, very good indeed.
Absolutely, and of course he would have had a little worry when he saw Buell go out because the engines come from fundamentally the same stable. So yeah, it's looking very good at the moment, but as we always say, you know, it's a long old race and a lot can still happen.
Well, Scott's just overtaken Gregoire. Gregoire must be running around here on fumes at this moment in time, I should think, because there can't be much else left in the tank, that's for sure. Stefan Gregoire, your former leader, until Cheever snuck up on him and overtook him to take the lead, and Gregoire has to pit. He pitted, I think, last time at 102 laps, so he's really running on fresh air. We can cross now back to our commentators at trackside.
Welcome back to Pikes Peak International Raceway. We have completed 182 laps. There are the top 5. We're at Pikes Peak International Raceway for the 6th event of the Indy Racing Northern Light Series. I'm Bob Jenkins along with Tom Sneva, Vince Welch, and Jack Arute down in the pit area. 200 laps constitute this race. We have had 6 different leaders, with Scott Sharp having led the most laps, 77. The average speed of the race, 133 miles an hour, and they're the drivers that have dropped out of competition. Most recently, Billy Boat, Sarah Fisher, and Greg Ray have been involved in accidents, contact with the wall, but both are okay. We're watching this battle between Scott Sharp and Ayrton Dare for the 3rd position. That's Dare up ahead of Scott Sharp. We're on board with Scott Sharp.
Well, you can see Scott's got a pretty good run on him, but the outside, I know that's going to be a tough way around.
Let's see if he can do it. Not this time.
You can see it's interesting how Scott shuffles that wheel between the hands. Instead of keeping the hands solid on the wheel, he shuffles that wheel, and that's a little unusual for some of these oval tracks.
And the car that you saw on the onboard camera down on the apron of the track headed for pit road is Stefan Gregoire, who led for a while, dropped back to second, was there when he decided to come in for his final pit stop.
1, 2, 3, 4, down.
And that is what is called a timed pit stop. They get 5 seconds worth of fuel, no new tires, just fuel enough to get him to the checkered flag.
Well, again, that's Sharp going by McGee in the red and white car. A couple laps ago, he was trying to wipe all the paint off the wall coming off of turn 4, Bob, and it almost gave Gregoire the yellow he needed, but again, McGee got away with it, and he's still out there running.
McGee is in 11th position, 2 laps down. Scott Sharp now moves to 3rd, and up into 2nd is the rookie, Ayrton Darre, with Donnie Beechler 4th, and the last car on the lead lap. There is Beechler in the dark car, not too far behind Scott Sharp. But Eddie Cheever Jr. is the man of the hour.
Well, you talked about a man on a mission. Earlier last year, a lot of times people thought it was going to be mission impossible for this Infinity to win, but it's been knocking on the door all year long, and it looks like he's in pretty good shape right now.
We could see history in the making here this afternoon at Pikes Peak. There is Ayrton Darre, and the interval between himself and Cheever is 12.07 seconds, and Scott Sharp is 12.6 seconds behind Cheever.
Well, they've been in that same relationship for quite a few laps. I thought Sharp might be able to pick him up, but Darre's doing a heck of a job out there.
He goes, 10 laps to go at the line.
Indeed, 190 complete with 10 to go now. And we watch Scott Sharp and Donnie Beechler both trying to close in on Ayrton Darre. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th right here. Darre's best career finish, 11th at Orlando. First race of the year. Oh, make that 10th, I'm sorry, last week at Texas.
Well, and you heard on Sharp's radio, he said what the spotter told him to watch his mirrors. There's traffic coming up from behind as Scott's trying to pick off Darre, but here comes Beechler. How about this effort for Donnie Beechler? I mean, he's all over these guys.
He sure is. Hey, maybe making a move. No, Scott has to dive down to the inside of the racetrack to make the corner, shutting off the momentum momentarily of Donnie Beechler.
Well, you can see Donnie got in that wake again, the bad air, and he had to roll out of the throttle, lost a little of that momentum. And it'll take him another couple laps to get the momentum back to take another run at Sharp. It'll be interesting to see if he can get it done. He's working real hard right now.
Well, Eddie Cheever Jr., if he wins this race, will take the points lead. Buddy Lazier was the first out of the event. Lazier came in as the points leader. He was the first out, however, on lap number 1 when the engine let go. So the point standings are really going to change as a result of what we've seen here today. Buell was right up there in points also. He was the 23rd finisher here this afternoon. And of course, Eddie Cheever Jr. will also be the 6th different winner in 6 different races.
Clear.
And once again, we watch the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th as they clear some of the slower traffic.
Well, Beechler can catch Sharp, but here he goes. They're so evenly matched, it's going to be real tough for Beechler to get around. He might need some help from some traffic.
We've got 4 laps to go at Pikes Peak International Raceway. Cheever with a 12.8 second lead on Darre. The best battle on the racetrack is this one. Sharp and Beechler for 3rd.
Well, this is real tough for a driver. It's real frustrating. You know you're a little quicker, but you can't figure out how to get the job done. And sometimes you try a little bit too hard, and he knows he's running out of time.
Just 3 more miles to go in this afternoon's event. Now Darre once again comes up on slower traffic in the form of Al Unser Jr., who's back in 6th position. But again, where he passes is very critical to how much separation he can put between himself and the car behind him. And look at Beechler. They go 3 wide into the corner. Whoa! And Beechler and Unser touch wheels, and Beechler is hard into the wall, and Unser Jr. also bangs the wall.
Cheever's got to run right through this mess.
But the caution is out, and the race will obviously end under the caution because we are on the last lap of the race. And Eddie Cheever Jr. picks up his 4th career win. 3 of them have come on 1-mile ovals. He takes the points lead, and perhaps more importantly, he brings the Infiniti Indy engine its first victory in Indy Racing Northern Light Series competition.
Well, that's just amazing. You know, they lost one of the motors earlier, so they had to be on their heels a little bit about their reliability situation, but there it was. The Infiniti comes home with number 1.
Eddie Cheever Jr.
Eddie Cheever Jr. then takes the first win in the Infiniti-powered car here at the Radisson 200 at Pikes Peak International Raceway. We'll have more as the cars finish under a caution here in the Sky Sports studio in just a couple of minutes.
Junior, but for the Nissan Infiniti people, and you can see what he's going to do. Eddie wants to celebrate, and we're going to go around the other side here and grab him because it may have been so long that he's been to victory lane he's forgotten.
Got him.
Turn around because the camera's over here. I know you don't really care because you've just taken the Nissan Infiniti into history. The first win, Eddie, congratulations.
We got the first win for Oldsmobile, and we have the first ones for Infiniti, so that's good. I had such a big advantage today, it was unreal. Once we got the car working properly, oh man, that's good. I'm glad. I'm getting so tired of answering when is the Infiniti going to win. Next question is, when is Infiniti going to win the championship?
Well, you're leading the championship right now, getting the congratulations of Owen Snyder. And what an interesting mix for this team. Eddie Cheever coming from Formula One and open wheels, and Owen Snyder, his crew chief, coming from the World of Outlaws. So Eddie, you are now the official leader of the Indy Racing Northern Light Series chase for the championship.
I'm normally not at a loss for words, but right now, I really need to thank, obviously, Excited Home for giving us so much support and allowing us to make a run for the championship. And we have worked very hard with Nissan Infiniti to get it to this point. I was looking forward to a race with Lazier, and I saw he had a problem, so I'm sure we got a long way to go to the end, but what a great race, and I'm so happy and so honored to have won with this engine. This is great. I'm really, really pleased.
Bob, it's not raining anymore. It's just raining here in Victory Lane. He's got us all.
Jack Arute then, the pit lane reporter, they're having a bit of a trouble talking to the back of Eddie Cheever as he got into his celebrations a bit earlier on. Can't blame him either. Looks like a cool customer. And praise indeed for the Infiniti motor there, Russell.
I think it's very interesting that he won it on pace. He was about as quick as anybody out there all the way through the race. And when he qualified 10th, Eddie actually said that the car will be better in the race. So I think he had something up his sleeve right the way through the event. But it's a good win, and it's a significant win as well.
We heard them talking earlier on, I think, in commentary that the Infiniti motor, the way that it carburetes, may have an advantage here at the altitude that we're at, Paul.
Well, yeah, but I think this, it's always the thing, isn't it? Getting that first win is such a landmark in any career, be it a driver, a team, or in this case, the engine, and the combination of driver, team and engine. And I actually think now we'll see, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Eddie Cheever, as close as this championship scramble is, to take another victory this year, because that will just give the team such a boost. So don't be surprised if we get another Infiniti win quite quickly.
They're on their way, and they did it in Colorado. Now then, we finished under a yellow today. No one likes to see a race finish under a yellow. No one likes to see an incident like this. Donnie Beechler, Al Unser Jr., and you can see Beechler, who's driven brilliantly throughout the race all day long, and he really did, found himself in a 3-car scrap there, just caught his rear wheel on the front of Al Unser, and really, you've got to say that's a racing incident there, and luckily, Beechler just grazed the wall. You can see as this lined itself up now, the three of them. Beechler gets big draft there. He's going around the outside. He's got the difficult job to do. He's right out there in the marbles. Just caught the front wheel there of Al Unser Jr. Al Unser Jr., well, no fault to him. And you've got to say that, Well, the perpetrator of that was Donny Beechler, but for me, the penalty didn't fit the crime, gentlemen. I've got to say that he was, for me, the man of the match this weekend. Donny Beechler has looked fast all day long. A shame for it to end up like that, Russell.
It was a shame. What was interesting was he tried so hard not to put the squeeze on the guy in the middle, but I think he just ran out of room. But again, last week in America, they were saying that the Texas race was a landmark event for IRL because it was very competitive, it was very close. If you're getting passing like that on the last couple of laps of an event, I mean, it really does bode well for the future of IRL.
And you might have noticed the deliberate mistake that I made in a voiceover a little bit earlier on. I was citing your name in this as well, Russell. Ayrton Dare, in that custard and prunes coloured car that Russell said that you really shouldn't paint that colour.
Everyone will be painting them now that colour.
He of course finished in second place. It must have been Davey Hamilton that we saw going down pit lane with a smoky old motor. So along with Beechler, Dare was the man of this meeting as well, wasn't he? Because Dare came right the way through from behind.
He's an interesting guy because he won a couple of races in Indy Lights. He's only 22. Comes from Sao Paulo, which of course is the hometown to Ayrton Senna and a couple of other great Brazilian racing drivers. And he started his career as a jet ski racer, so you know, probably good in the wet as well.
Well, we've had pygmy midgets and God knows what being quoted by Russell Bulgin here. He's got all the knowledge in this place. Now then, Jackaroot, let's see how he gets on with the second and third place men and see if he makes a better job.
Hey Vince, we've got the guy that was the 5th face. Eddie Cheever is the 6th face. Maybe he'll be the 7th face to go to victory lane. First of all, Scott Sharp, you had a solid car and then it went away real quick.
Yeah, we on the first run, you know, we fought some looseness conditions and tightened that up, and the car was really strong in the second run. Then, you know, we just had a combination. The car wasn't quite where we wanted it in traffic, and it was a little loose on its own, so we fought that a lot. But hey, we came into these last 2 races with the Delphi team wanting to get 2 top finishes, get ourselves back in the points race. Winning last weekend and 3rd here basically accomplishes our goal.
Is that what it's all about now with just a couple of races left? You got to get as many points as possible. Are you chasing that championship?
Well, we weren't till last weekend. You know, we were a little out of it. But, you know, after Indianapolis is over, it becomes points, points, points. You want to win as much as you can, but you need to get the points.
Another driver that's chasing points, but the Rookie of the Year points are to Ayrton Dare. And finally, a good run. Congratulations.
Thanks. We're knocking on the door like last 3 races, and finally we could cross the start-finish line on the podium and top 3. That's, I mean, second place is really good for us.
Describe the feeling that you had as his crew chief, Mark White, goes by. Describe the feeling that you had when you completed the race, because you've had all kinds of mechanical problems.
No, that yellow, my very good in last few laps, that's 5 laps I'd say, and I was worried about him overtaking me, so that yellow helped me a lot. But it's a great feeling to be on the podium again, and since last year in Indy Lights I've never been to the podium.
Well, let me show you where the podium is. It's headed right there, and they're calling your name. Ayrton Dare, Bob, he finished second, a solid second.
He certainly did finish a solid second. Ayrton Dare, I won't say anything about his dad, Dan, all right? 6 winners, 6 races, Paul Mazel.
Just shows you, doesn't it, how competitive this series is. I mean, there's a lot of talk about this playing second fiddle maybe to kart, but I mean, you don't see that sort of racing in some of the other single-seater championships where there tends to be 1 or 2 people dominating, and here 6 out of 6 is just quite incredible, really.
Well, we've got a media man in here. For me, it seems to be a little bit along the lines of the media seem to be slightly biased to either one series or the other. Champ Car seems to come out on top, mostly, I would say, here in the UK as far as popularity is concerned, but IRL consistently now give us great racing. And we've got an increased series for next year.
Absolutely. I think one of the things about IRL compared to kart is that kart has a much more international flavour. There are drivers from all over the world, whereas IRL is predominantly American drivers, and that makes it a little difficult for the European media to pick up on. But no, the racing is getting better, and of course it's a much newer series than kart as well. It doesn't have quite the entrenched feel that kart does, so it's moving along very nicely, but they need more races. 12 races is a good number for 2001.
And also adding to that, just picking up on that point, that with the 12 races, the announcement that we've heard today, the fact that they're condensing the series as well, because you get this strange situation where we get the first race in January and then nothing for weeks, you know, almost 8 weeks, whereas the series now will kick off in March, still at Walt Disney World, and will conclude at the end of September. So it's much more compact, moving it to 7 months instead of the 10 we normally have.
OK, so that's for 2001. We've got 12 IRL races next year. Next year too, we hope, and we think is confirmed, very close to, Champ Car in Europe. How long before we see IRL in Europe?
That's a very good question. I suspect it might be a while, because I would think that kart would say, if you want us to come to your European track, we'd rather prefer it that you didn't have an IRL race as well to confuse those rather dim European punters. But it should happen. It would be really good, but we need oval racing in Europe.
Politics plays a big part in motorsport, as ever, of course. We can take a look now at the confirmed result of the Radisson 200 from Colorado. Eddie Cheever, a fantastic win for him then, and the first on an Infinity motor. That's a Nissan motor. Ayrton Dare, great ride from him, into second place. Scott Sharp, third. That does his championship a whole load of good as well. Cheever, by the way, is the leader in the series now after that win. Mark Dismore came through to fourth place in the end, beating Donnie Beecher, who does actually finish fifth in the series, despite in the race rather, despite being stuck against the wall. Eliseo Salazar, it's an anomaly of course within racing. Sixth place for Eliseo Salazar. Jarrett Schroeder is there in seventh place. Stefan Gregoire, we saw him running on fumes a little bit earlier on in the race. Jacques Lazier is there in ninth place. Buddy is gone and against the pit wall. Al Unser Jr., he finishes, the man who got caught up there with Donnie Beecher, he finishes in 10th place. Well, that's how they finished officially at trackside now. Now the championship has closed right up again with Buddy Lazier, as I tried to stumble my way through that particular final result there. Buddy Lazier out on the first lap here. We've got all sorts of things going on in the series. Scott Goodyear, fifth in Texas. Eddie Cheever goes to the front of the series. Are we in for a load more surprises in this series this year, do you think, Russell?
I think we are, but I think what you needed to come away from Pikes Peak from was with some momentum. You needed to sort of define where your championship's going to go towards the close of the year. That's why Greg Ray really needed to win and put some points on the board. And you can kind of sense that with Scott Sharp winning last weekend, finishing in the top three here, that his championship hopes are looking very strong. And of course, you can't really disregard Cheever either. He's timing his run perfectly, I think.
Paul, you've been looking through the paperwork here to try and find out where the next, we'll call it a wild card if you like, where's the next challenge coming from to the front of this series?
Well,
it's up and down like a yo-yo.
One of the interesting points is that the winner of events at Pikes Peak International Raceway has gone on to win the title. So I think we're seeing Eddie Cheever. Tony Stewart did it first of all.
Yeah, you already put the jinx on Greg Ray from last year.
That is true.
I blame you for that.
It's all right, I'm sure he will as well. But that is an interesting point, that each year we've seen the champion come from the winner of the Pikes Peak race. So we may well have just seen not only Eddie Cheever get his first Infinity win, but the first Infinity Championship.
Eddie Cheever Jr. looking very good indeed. Infinity, they're going to be drinking long into the night, I feel, Russell.
Yeah, they're going to have a serious headache, I think. A collective team headache.
And do you think they can carry on with this? Do you think Infinity can carry that momentum through to the next round?
They come out of this race with a combination of pace and reliability, so I think they can.
Well, the next round, of course, is at Atlanta, and that's going to be a great race meeting as well. We'll bring you the results of that as soon as we can. But we've more US motorsport again next weekend when we continue to follow the NASCAR Busch Grand National Series at Watkins Glen, no less than. We'll bring you the Lysol 200 next Sunday evening at 8:45 on Sky Sports 1. But that's it for tonight. Congratulations to our race winner. And all that remains is for me to say a big thank you to my guests, Russell Bolgin and Paul Mouzell. We'll leave you with some of the high-speed action from the Pikes Peak International Raceway. Good night.